We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. For me, Steve Ray, that is the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United Premier League weekend. And it's welcome to Mitch, George, to Joe and Steve. And welcome to you. And I want to get a couple of things out of the way before we start the show tonight. First of all, there is a website link, www.robsonsworld.com. That, of course, is Alan Robson. Get to those phones. He's got a brand new release today, and it is Newcastle United themed. It's almost 6 hours of stories, recollections, great Geordie music and interviews, including Pavel's final interview, which I helped set up, and Lee Clark as well, both promoting our books that we did, which you can get now as Kindles, Lee Clark's book and Pavel's book. It will go live on that link today at robsonsworld.com. And really just the intro tells you all you need to know about Alan Robson. As a little boy from the West End of Newcastle to playing on that shining turf and hosting games, I have gathered many a secret. Star names, mysterious murders, executions, heroes, villains and giggles. This is a must for anyone interested in football, but especially the Geordie nation. With star interviews, great music and incredible memories in a life bound to the club, one way or another, this is a proper Geordie's look, but one of the few constants in Alan Robson's life. Gorgeous is the way he describes it. So get on that, get yourself onto Robson's World and download it. Well worth a listen, and only $4.99 as well to listen to it. But get yourself onto Robson's World. Lots of stuff on there as well. And a big shout out to Media Art, who runs that for Alan. The other thing I've been sent today is on our NUFC Matters Facebook group. And this is an appeal for anyone going to the game tomorrow. It's that we clap for a supporter, Laura Coates, on the 38th minute. Laura recently passed away, and Sunday would have been her 39th birthday. She was a massive Newcastle fan, forever 38. And of course, Margaret Gill, thank you for sending that on the Facebook group. We will endeavour to spread the word, and hopefully people do just that on the 38th tomorrow. Our thoughts, of course, with the family. But the season is here. And before we get into that, because we will be talking about Newcastle United's Premier League season and ambitions for 24-25, we've got a soap opera going on. Now, I've been on holiday this week. I've got Coronation Street to catch up with. But we have got our ongoing soap opera called Mark Guehi and Crystal Palace. Mitch, what have you made of all of this over the last couple of days, and how do you think it's going to pan out?
Well, you could have knocked me down with a feather when you said to me that, Lee, right? And others were reporting that the latest bid had been knocked back, because that was totally contrary to what I was told from two good sources this afternoon. And I've gone back to them, and they're both equally as surprised. It has felt all along to me, and I mentioned it on Twitter today, that it felt performative. And that's exactly what Parish is doing. He's feeding the media. He's playing with the media. He's dressing them. He's leaking out left, right, and centre like a sieve. They've obviously forgot what happened with Zaha. They did the same with him, and they didn't get max value for him, and he ended up walking away. Guehi's value was right now probably at the zenith that it could be. Fresh in the memory of the Euros, with a club willing to pay, and willing to pay handsomely for somebody who, he had a good Euros. Did he have a spectacular season last season? Well, he was certainly decent, but do I see 70 million worth there? For me, no. Is it time to stop the performance? I think so, for me, if this is the situation. I don't half feel, though, like there's a further twist in this somewhere. It just has that feeling. It feels like to me what they're trying to show to their fans is, look at the fight we put up, and that we've been prepared to play along with it to a point. But I do think now it's time for the performance to end. I want to get on with the season. I really genuinely would be much more excited looking at them putting a £65 million bid in for an outstanding right winger, and then look at evaluate other targets at the back. And as for Crystal Palace, learn our lesson about dealing with them. They've been up the arses of the cartel for most of the last few years anyway, voting in peculiar ways, voting in ways that seem to sometimes even shoot themselves in the foot. And this is absolutely ridiculous. If he's been going around telling everybody all week it's a 65 million deal, and we put 65 million on the table, and he's turning around now saying it's 70, well, I'm sorry, you look like a spiv, you talk like a spiv, and you're now acting like a spiv. Do one.
George, it's leaving a bit of an unsavoury taste in the mouth. We don't know how this is going to pan out. I think we all were quizzical. That probably is a good way to describe it. When we saw Guehi coming out and actually doing an interview talking about it. So, there's been a few twists and turns this week.
Well, twists and turns, which are, in my view, nicely directed from somewhere inside Crystal Palace. I don't think any of that happened by accident. And if the lad really wants to come, well, great. But there's, I keep saying on here and I repeat, I want us to be a big club. Well, we've demonstrated we're a big club in going for this lad because he's top in terms of centre backs in the Premier League, I think, at the moment, and that shows our ambitions. And it seems that from his own interview and other interviews that Newcastle's where he would like to come. Asked which is the best stadium ever to play in, even a simple question like that, it's St James's Park. Well, that could have been a set-up answer, but even if it was, so what? But then there's the other side of it. They're entitled to hold on to their player to get what they want as far as they can. But once they start playing it in public, which is what they're doing now, then they're not entitled. And it becomes behoving on us to say, well, right, we're behaving like a big club. Stick your Mark Guehi where the monkey wouldn't stick its nuts, because we don't want him anymore. And what will happen in 6-7 months' time, January transfer window even, they'll have a very unhappy Mark Guehi because he's missed a big payday. And then they'll have to sell him for a lot less than we were prepared to pay, even just to get rid of him, as Neil says. Just like they messed about with Zaha and they lost out on that. they'll end up losing out on this one if they don't come clean soon. I mean, I was in a taxi this morning and listened to Parish on his radio blast, and he's a pompous idiot, really. He prattles on about absolutely nothing, and he's doing that with us. Well, enough's enough, guys. Tell the Spiv what to do with his ambitions, because he doesn't seem to have many real ambitions. He just wants to play games. Well, the game's over as far as I'm concerned. I would love the lad to be in our squad by the end of this week or whenever, but not at the price of letting them make absolute fools of us or making us like we're begging to do the deal. Newcastle United haven't got to beg for anybody or anything now, like we used to have to in the past. And there are other targets out there, both in Europe and in the UK. I mean, if our look at what we've picked up, our talented spotters have picked up just this season. The centre half that we've got from on a free from Bournemouth looks like a steal. The kid we've got from Sheffield United looked like a world beater in the first 45 minutes he's played for the club. Well, do some more of that, but we don't need to be begging people like Crystal Palace to do anything. I mean, they're carpetbaggers anyway. They don't bloody know who owns them to start with. So enough's enough. If you sign on the dotted line or walk away and leave them with the player who, I say, by January window will be very unhappy and they'll be very, very lucky to get what they think that he's worth. As for worth, at the moment, if you could get him, I would even say that for what add-ons it would give to our team, he might even be worth the 70 million for what he gives to the team. Whether him individually is or not's another matter. But there's a point where somebody can add to the team, so you take the chance, but not begging. No, it's got to be done this weekend, or it's got to be stopped. End of, and let them face the consequences, because I think there would be consequences from the player if he's his head up about coming. He won't be a very happy bunny if somebody says no. So great if he signs. Hard luck if he doesn't. There's plenty more fish in the sea, as they say.
Yeah, funny enough, Sean mentions Tosin. He says that as Costas, we need to walk away from Guehi. I like the kid, but he's not £65 million worth. Eddie needs to get this English target out of his mind. Let's go for another botman. Interesting stuff, that, Steve.
Yeah.
That Tosin deal feels like something years ago. Almost forgotten all about it. But yeah. It's a weird one. This really is weird, and I always say, when we say it on the show, don't believe a player's been signed until we see him, holding a scarf up on the pitch or wearing a strip on the pitch. But at the same time, don't believe a deal's off just because a journalist or two says the deal's off.
Yeah, you're right, Steve, and I think Mitch and I must have been talking to the same sources, because at lunchtime, I was very positive that this deal was going to go ahead over the weekend. And then you see the articles popping up on social media from various press guys saying that the next bid, the fourth bid, has been knocked back. I mean, let's look at Guehi. He was the shining light in what was a 30-watt bulb dressing room during the Euros. So it was so dull that somebody asked me the other day about the Euros, and I'd forgotten who had even played in the final. All my concentration has been now solely placed on Newcastle United and on getting to today and looking forward to the match tomorrow. 65 million plus add-ons. It's a lot of money, even for Newcastle United in the current realm of being owned by PIF. And for a defender, that's going to put it up there with probably one of the highest priced defenders. You've got the likes of the lad at Liverpool, and you've got Maguire at Man United. Maguire was 80 million. and it's an awful lot of money. I mean, they're talking about £5 million add-ons on top, and no doubt there'll be something else. And then you've got the fee to the player. But let's face it, what is Parish doing? He's playing to the Selhurst Park Gallery. That's who he's playing to at the moment. He's not playing to the Newcastle United fans gallery. He's not trying to show, aren't I a strong man, Newcastle United, and sticking the two fingers up to us. He's very much going, look at me, Selhurst Park. Look at me, the fans at Crystal Palace. I'm not going to be pushed around. I think he's also looking at the rest of the Premier League and certainly the top six. And he's sending a message out to them saying, lads, you can't let these people push you about, whether it's something at Premier League meetings or whether it's behind the scenes when they're complaining about PSR and they're complaining about financial fair play. You can beat these guys every single time. You can just stand up to them, and that's the message he's trying to portray, that he's the hard man and everybody else should be a hard man when it comes to Newcastle United in terms of negotiating. Whether, as I say, whether that's to do with transfers or something to do with the running of the game. So, and he, let's face it, has been one of those, and that club has been one of those clubs. And everybody knows that whenever there's a rumour comes out from the Premier League, that it filters its way out through Selhurst Park. Whenever there's a rumour from a meeting to do with the Premier League, everybody says in the press that it comes via Selhurst Park. So this is the modus operandi of that football club. This is the modus operandi that they're playing out in the press at the moment. And let's face it, if that's how he wants to play it, then fine. We'll reach a point where we'll move on, and that's calling his bluff, I suppose, in one respect. But if you've got 65 million plus to spend on him, then potentially you've got 65 million plus to spend on at least two other players. If you decide that Guehi is not available and you wash your hands of it and you move on, and then you leave Crystal Palace, who at the end of the season and for the last 3 or 4 months of that season, since they got rid of the manager and brought the new guy in, seem to be putting things together. But now they could very well end up with a very unhappy footballer, a footballer who obviously wants to move on. His body language is saying that when he's been seen on TV. But they're going to end up with a player who's not settled at the football club. And no doubt other clubs will come in January and trace him if we don't come back. And then Parish is going to be left with egg on his face if that certain footballer decides, you know what, I'll just run my contract down. So dangerous game that's being played. Let's see what happens. But our main concentration now is the match tomorrow, and we'll let the transfer shenanigans carry on. I suspect there's an awful lot more going to happen tonight and tomorrow, probably before the game. And it's a case of, are Mitch and myself, are our sources correct, or are the guys in the press who are putting out the story that it's not going to happen? Are they a little bit more ginned up on it than we are? And only time will tell, I suppose.
Someone's right. Joe, I mean,
Joe's right.
Joe, you know, let's face it, some of this could have been avoided had Newcastle gone in and bid £65 million, which is the asking price. At least a week and a half worth of backwards and forwards could have been avoided. There's reasons why clubs, of course, won't go in at the asking price. They want to save money. But the kids had a good Euros. I guess we can look at probably Bournemouth selling Solanke for 65 million and saying what's the going price of somebody, especially if a club's after a player in a certain position. So there's lots of different permutations. There's two sides to this particular story, but it's I just hate it when it gets played out in public. And recent events, let's say since 2021, these kind of transfers tend not to come off. You know what I mean? And it's a load of flannel. And we've mentioned a couple of times as well, you know, last week in particular, because this was a story last week, you know, on Newcastle. Yeah, Newcastle clearly interested. They're putting bids in and it's publicised bids. But, you know, are they working on something else away from this as well? So it's interesting. And as always, we've got nothing out of Eddie Howe today.
Yeah, as usual. I just want Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Mitchell to get off the fence about Steve Parish. I thought he was a nice guy. there's a lot going on, isn't there? There's, and I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at it from Newcastle's perspective, because you've also got Paul Mitchell who wants to make a statement. So you've got Crystal Palace playing hardball and silly buggers and whatever Parish is up to. They know we've got money on tap, and we're sat here now with our new Adidas shirts on, and they know there's extra money in the coffers there, and we're only going to get richer and bigger and better. So he's playing hardball, but and Mitchell wants to make a statement. And with the greatest of respect to everybody we've brought into the football club this summer, yes, there's been some astute signings and some quality signings. I really like Lloyd Kelly, but actually, are they rock and roll signings? Arguably not. Were we promised by Darren Eales that this was almost going to be an era-defining kind of couple of transfer windows coming up? That's what he alluded to, and yet here we are with a couple of goalkeepers and a free from Bournemouth and an unknown from Sheffield. So Newcastle United have to do something in this transfer window. We've lost a couple of good players arguably that we would have liked to have kept to get the books balanced. But I thought with the clocks resetting and the ambition that the football club's talking about, is this the time to just put the pedal down a little bit and kind of go for it? We had a discussion, was it last week, about his worth. He's worth what he's worth. Clearly, we want him because allegedly we've gone back 4 times. Surely you only get told no twice and you move on. So clearly we want him. I really sincerely hope he's not the only name on a transfer list of one. Let's put all our eggs into this basket, and this is who we're going after. This is our primary target. We're reasonably okay at the back. We could have done without Lascelles' injury and obviously Sven Botman, who I'm a massive fan of. But I was looking at the top end of the pitch. I think, like Mitch said, I was looking for this £65 million right-sided player, not a centre half. But yeah, games get played, don't there? And if Steve Parish and whoever it is, the bandits that own Crystal Palace, if they can afford to turn down 50, 60, 70 million pounds, and that's great. Their books must be in decent nick. My concern is it plays out in public. Is this where we're finally starting to miss Amanda already? Because I'm led to believe she played absolute hardball over Anthony Gordon and told Everton, "There's your money, take it or leave it." And obviously they cracked and they agreed to the sale. Are we too nice? We've always thought, are we too nice for a football club? Should we just go in and say, do you know what? There's 85 million. There you go. Then it's done. Let's sign him. Let's get him on the pitch tomorrow and we can all move forward. I don't know. My head goes in a few different directions. I agree with George. I'd absolutely love him at the football club. I think he can only enhance our team and that can only be a good thing. But we don't want to get our pants pulled down at the same time, and especially not from football clubs like Crystal Palace, because we're bigger than that and we're better than that. So, it'll twist and it'll turn. I did make reference last week to the fact that we're all looking in one direction and we'll have a new centre-half from Juventus over here somewhere lined up and ready to sign, because that's the way we kind of do business. But maybe if that was the case, we wouldn't be doing this publicly and we wouldn't be going back again and back again and back again whilst we're working on other deals. Surely we'd just say, you know what, we tried for this lad, but now we're moving on, and nobody said that. So we will see. I'm the optimist. I think we will spend money before the transfer window. Hopefully it'll be on international class footballers like Mark Guehi. But yeah, the days of being held to ransom and bent over the table by clubs like Crystal Palace have long gone. So, we either sign him or we move on. Let's make a decision and go one way or the other.
Yeah, we'll watch this space. Of course, it's a fluid story. So if anything does develop over the course of the next hour and a half, we'll obviously let you know. Go on, George.
Just one last thing is that we're all looking, as Joe says, at Guehi. When I want to balance things like that, I always think about Isak's transfer. We weren't even talking about him, and he was signed. he was there. It was done and dusted. Now that's the kind of transfer I like, and somebody worth that kind of money. So time to stop.
Okay, time to get into one of our sections. We've always got plenty to get through on a Friday night. It is time for the Diamond. The day I met, we asked you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. And thanks to Steve Tribe, who has sent in this photograph of him meeting Peter Beardsley. You never get sick of seeing him, Peter, at the ground there a few years ago, by the looks of that. But if you've got a picture that you want to send in, if you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present, then get onto our Facebook group or Facebook page. You can join the group or like the page, or follow me on X at Steve Wraith. Send them over and we will feature you on the show to play this music, which certainly splits opinions. Barry Hogan was asking about Miggy. He said, what does the panel think of the greed shown by Miggy and his agent? They caused the deal to collapse, sheer greed on their behalf. I've been slightly out of the loop on what's been going on with Miggy this week, but there was somebody else who also says, Geordie Timberlake, we need to stop the Miggy out campaign on social media. As in the ground, the lad is liked by the majority. Let's get behind him when he plays. Confidence is everything. And it ties in a little bit, Mitch, to what we were saying about Sean Longstaff last week. That some players take it to heart, others don't. But yeah, the Mickey situation again, I still think has got a bit of time to play out. Probably the same as Trippier, probably the same as Wilson. But we're all focused this evening on whether Mark Guehi is going to be pulling on a black and white shirt or one of these purple blue numbers that me and Joe are rocking tonight. But it's for me personally, it's still a long way to go in the transfer window. Anything can happen, Mitch. Anything.
I think there's an absolute ton going to happen, and I think we'll be involved right up to the end. You've got some interesting situations in world football at the moment. You've got Ligue 1, who've lost. Each club is currently down €50 million because of the TV deal collapsing. It looks like BA are picking up the scraps. There's a thing. But it's only going to be at the best half of what was originally offered. So they've all got a €25 million hole in their accounts. Who knows French football backside forward? Probably Paul Mitchell. And I think there might be some interesting deals to do there. You look at Chelsea's situation with 10 million squad players in a desperate need to slash their wage bill. And in spite of doing well from take the sell at the hotels and all the other crap out of it, in terms of player sales and trading, they've done very well. But they still need to do more. Other deals to be done there. And yes, it's helping Chelsea, but I think we need to just focus on what we need to do for us and screw everybody else. I think you're going to find more teams with PSR problems will be looking towards the end of the window to see how can this ease our next window and then June of next year, so we're not scrambling at the last minute yet again. And so I think Paul Mitchell's going to be exceptionally busy right up to the end of the window. It wouldn't surprise me one little bit. I'm not saying we're going to be making blockbuster signings left, right and centre, but it also wouldn't surprise me to see us bring a centre back in, bring a right winger in, and make a couple of other keen signings that flesh the squad out a little bit more. And he has to work on outgoings coming to Miggy. Like Palace and like us with Bruno, everybody's got a right to hold out for a price that they think somebody's worth. That's why they call it transfer negotiations. Equally with Almiron, there's a section of our fan base seem desperate to get him out the door. He's vilified by a certain section of our fan base, and he frustrates me. He irritates me. The fact he can't use his right foot absolutely torments me. I can use both feet equally as well. I'm an overweight dentist in Dubai. If I can do that, I'm quite sure a professional footballer can try and have a go at doing that as well. Okay, both of my feet are probably really as shit as each other, but that's by the by. Miggy's right foot isn't even a swinger because he doesn't swing it. And that's what irritates us. But some of the stuff chucked at him, I think, is absolutely horrendous. I think what Barry says, to call him greedy in a situation like that, him and his agent have equally a right to decide whether an offer is right for that client and right for them, be that based on wages, be that based on location. Perhaps he doesn't want to go to Charlotte. There are lots of reasons why somebody might turn a transfer down. If we have agreed a transfer, then we've compromised significantly on our asking price to try and let that happen. That doesn't seem like us either at the minute. But I tell you what, this is why I asked you. I know part of the remit for the worst 11s that we're rattling through at the minute. It was not to include recent players. But I can tell you right now, Miggy would be nowhere near anybody's worst 11. Nowhere near. If you want to see worst players, bad players, dig through some of the worst 11s, and for many, many reasons. And I don't think Mickey would get anywhere near that. And I think some of the stuff the fan base aims, a certain section of what fan base aims at them, I think is unreasonable, really. But equally, yes, it's a position we need to upgrade, I think. And that's what puts them in the firing line. It's very... I think my lack of outgoings is probably what frustrates me more on the transfer front. Because we've got genuine deadwood causing problems, like Ryan Fraser, who Southampton say, yep, we want them, we've agreed to deal with Newcastle, but the problem is between Newcastle and the player. What he wants is his cake and eat it. He wants his contract paid up in full and to go to Southampton and pick up whatever wages they're prepared to pay him. The problem is the player here. That's a player being greedy. He's already shown at 2 different clubs now, he's quite happy to sit on his arse and do nothing and take the wages. So, that's the kind of player we need to be pointing fingers at to say, we need this idiot out of our club, and that'll help ease the wage bills. But I do think, it is an area of the pitch we need to be looking at. And it frustrates us that he seems to be the only surprise that he's a target of the boo boy section of the fan base is that he's not a left back, because it's usually left back so well.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, and that shows in a few of the 11s that we've put together in our series just for fun, of course. George, the Miggy thing is, again, it'll run and run because and it'll run and run like Mickey, I guess. But I've got to agree that you don't let a player go unless you get a player in, and I mean it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to get rid of Mickey, I think, if he doesn't want to go to somewhere. I think your son's right.
And neither should he. I mean, we're all in terms of our employment, want to work in a place where we'd like to work. Nobody's going to go somewhere they don't particularly want to go, if that's the case. And neither should he be pushed out the door, in my view. The one thing I like about, and always liked about Miggy, if no matter what's happening around the place, you can guarantee there's one player that always have a smile on his face, whatever the situation. He'd run his legs off for Newcastle United, wherever they put him. And it's worth remembering that Rafa brought him not as a right winger or a left winger, but as a goal scorer and midfielder. Because he does it for Peru. When he plays in that position for Peru, he's outstanding. And yet we never give the lad a chance. We just regard him as a right winger with a left foot, or a left winger with a right foot, or 1 foot that he just stands on. But they're side issues. If you want somebody to do 100% for the club with a smile on his face, you can't go past Miggy, in my view. So those that are in a hurry to get him out the door might regret it if he went. But why should he go somewhere when that's not for him? He's got a family to consider. It irritated me greatly the last time that they were talking about getting rid of him to Saudi Arabia. And the lad was going in to visit patients in the RVI and having to face all these questions about, are you going to go to Saudi Arabia and all this sort of thing. What nonsense. What nonsense. The bloke was there doing his bit for the club and doing his bit on the field for the club. Seemed to me that impose that on him. So if we want people who are invested in 100% in Newcastle United, then Miggy's one of the last ones I would have out the door, I've got to say. And add to that he has a smile on his face. Yes, it's irritating. I know I go on and on about this one-footed player stuff all the time. And I agree with Neil. Well, Neil knows the lengths my father went to make sure I could use 2 feet. And they could do the same. They could do the same. It just irritates me that they don't even seem to think about it. Whether that's because that they feel above it or what, I don't know. But I think it's very harsh on Miggy, to be honest. And as I say, there comes a day when you need somebody to do a job and run his legs off for the club. That would be Miggy for me, and with a smile on his face. There's never any doubt about that. So I always think it interesting when they come off the field if he's playing, and there's a big guy at the top of the stairs when they come off the pitch up the tunnel, who always congratulate the players. And he doesn't congratulate Miggy. He usually picks him up and shakes him and gets a big smile out of him. Well, you know, I'd hang on to Miggy unless we're getting a lot of money for him. I wouldn't let him go for buttons. It would be ridiculous when we're talking about financial values and all that sort of thing. So harsh on Miggy, I think. And but sadly, you're right, Steve. It'll run and run as long as there's a story in it. Somebody will print it.
Steve, the Miggy Almiron fan club is quite small, I would say. I don't think there's many people, cheer him on social media. But the person who made the comment is right. In the ground, both home and away, he's a fan's favourite. People do like him. I like him, and I'm with George. I'd hate to see Miggy, leave. Unless A, he was happy, and B, we had a replacement. You know what I mean? And he's been a great servant of the club. Not forgetting, he was a great servant of the club in the darker times.
Exactly. Signed in 2019. Let's not forget that. Signed at a very, very difficult time for the football club. 177 games, 23 Premier League goals in 177 Premier League games. That's not a bad record, is it?
No.
The reason that George, that everybody picks him up as he's that Eddie picks him up as he's leaving the pitch rather than just shaking his hand is because he's only 9'9". That's why he's easy to pick up. I think the only thing he's got going against him, well, there's a few things going against him. One is that there are a certain section of the fan base who have taken it upon themselves to almost try and drive him out of the football club because they know on Football Manager they know best. And they know better than what they actually physically see during the game. And one is that he's 30-year-old now, so that's a little bit of a drawback for him. The other thing is, and Mitch mentioned this sort of obsession we have with him not having a right foot. There's been plenty of players in the league with 1 foot who have managed to have a successful career. The best, obviously, was Ryan Giggs. I mean, Ryan Giggs was so left-footed, it was unbelievable. But the difference between Ryan Giggs and Miggy Almiron is that Alex Ferguson never played Ryan Giggs on the right. He never played him as an inverted winger. He always allowed him to do what suits him best, which was go down the line, use his left foot. He had the skill to be able to hit it with inside or outside of his left foot. So it didn't really matter. But with the way that we play, Miggy's so quick when he moves down that line that when it comes to the point of wanting to get a cross in, he has to pull it back because he's on the right side. He has to pull it back onto his left foot. And what we've always identified is that when that happens, it's only a matter of a second, but that second allows the central defenders of the opposition who are heading in the wrong direction or heading towards their own goal to then be able to then turn and face the player that they're supposed to be marking in the box. And it's a split second that makes all the difference. But that's to do with the tactics Newcastle play. That's the way Eddie Howe plays. He plays with inverted wingers. So let's not directly blame Miggy for that. What we could point the finger at as a professional footballer in the modern day, that he should be a little bit more two-footed. But that's the way he's been brought up. That's the way, that's his game. But you know what? His head's never dropped when he's had to play on that right side. Never, ever. He's never, ever turned around and said, I don't want to play, as some players did back in the day under Sir Bobby Robson, for example. I don't want to play there, so I'm not playing. Take the huff. Miggy has turned out week in, week out when he's been selected and has worked his socks off for that football team of ours. And for that, we should be eternally grateful, Steve. So I'm very, very much in the Miggy Almiron fan club in that respect.
Yeah, me too. Joe, thoughts on Miggy?
Yeah, he's one of them kind of cult hero type players, isn't he? You know, and if you think, you know, but it goes back to expectations for me. You know, what are people expecting? Are they expecting kind of Ryan Giggs? Are they expecting him to play like Mbappe or whatever? Because that's not him. It took him 12 seasons to score a goal, didn't it? You know, people wanted him out, and then we all fell in love with him, and he, and he put some fantastic performances in. But for me, and I do get frustrated with his end product sometimes, I must admit, and I do get frustrated with some of the chances and some of the good positions he gets into when the final ball's lacking, or he doesn't take the shot when he should. But I tell you what, he puts a shift in. And I think Eddie Howe, he does what Eddie Howe wants him to do. You know, you go out there and you run up and down that line, all day, every day. He's like a Duracell bunny. He'll just keep going and going and going. 2 seasons ago, there was no better right-hand side in world football for me with him and Kieran Trippier. They were playing those little triangles, and with kind of Sean Longstaff, people like that, we were absolutely destroying people down that right-hand side. So we can't have short memories. He is getting a bit older, therefore naturally you start to think about when's a good time to cash in. Where are we going to replace the work rate from? Where are we going to replace the kind of, bring him on if we do need a bit of legs? Where are we going to replace that first goal against Paris Saint-Germain that set the rest of the night up beautifully? He's done some great stuff. I'm sure he's a great lad. But there's him and there's Sean Longstaff and Dan Burn. They do appear to be the go-to targets now, and even sometimes, and I know it's a game of opinion, even if you think Almiron's had a reasonable game, you can hear people in and around you saying how bad he is and how much he needs to go and how should get him off. Get him off and replace him with who? We can't put him on the left-hand side because now you're taking Anthony Gordon out of the team, and who the hell's going to do that? Jacob Murphy's hot and cold, just as hot and cold as Miggy Almiron. So what do we do? Harvey Barnes hasn't been fit. So he's a good option for me. He's a good squad player. I'm sure he's good crack in the dressing room and all that with the lads. And he puts a shift in. Do I expect him to score 25 goals this season? Absolutely not. Do I expect him to make 50 assists for Isak? Absolutely not. But I expect him to put some graft in for Eddie Howe, and that's why he keeps getting a game.
Yeah, he does. He's a grafter. And some people say it does sentiment win your trophies, etc. But Trevor says, I'm all with the comments for Miggy. However, we need to move on from sentiment. This won't get Newcastle the place we desire. I love him. But yeah, I get where you're coming from, Trevor. But I just think ultimately from our perspective, you go when the time's right for him and for us. And that's it. Go on, Steve.
And I'm not comparing Miggy Almiron to Ryan Giggs. What I'm saying is that Ryan Giggs didn't have anything other than a left foot in the same way as Miggy. That's the only comparison. They were one-footed. But what I'm saying is that if you want to just have a pop at Miggy because he's only got the 1 foot, think about where he's playing and think about it in a little bit more depth rather than he's crap. He shouldn't be here. Yes, he's 30-year-old. Yes, his days are numbered at Newcastle United. We all know that. He'll know that these days are numbered. But at the moment, until they get somebody in, and it doesn't look like they're going to, Miggy Almiron has a very, very big part to play this season, unless they bring somebody else in and then the decision's made to let him go. But I don't think we can just let him go for the sake of it.
Yeah. I think the point everyone's trying to make, it's the unnecessary criticism on social media, and those two words again, which you'll get sick of hearing if you've just tuned into NUFC Matters for the first time. Social media is unfortunately what drives us all mental as Newcastle United fans, as football fans, I guess. So try just to switch it off. It's what I do. It's dead easy. Just switch your phone off and move on. At the end of the day, we've all got opinions. But, keep it clean, and if people don't keep it clean, there's a block button. That's the best thing to do. And little FB Sam is right. Frank Clark, one-footed, booed by a small section of the crowd, left and won European honours. Exactly. It's gone on for years. These kind of things. People always have opinions. The different thing is now that it's overemphasised because of social media. And again, I go around in circles on this program, but social media is only a small minority of the supporters. It's certainly not the rank and file that we sit next to or stand next to with games home and away. And you tend to find people will have people have their say after the match and the boozers. I'm sure that'll happen tomorrow. There'll be a hero, there'll be a villain. They might all be heroes tomorrow, but I much preferred it when it was like that.
Yeah. I tell you what, Steve, Frankie Clark. What they're saying about Frankie Clark? Yes, Frankie Clark only had a left, but up until the European Cup, the biggest game Frank played in was the FA Cup final, where we moved him onto the right because of Davy Craig's injury, and because we brought in Alan Kennedy, who only had a left foot.
Yeah,
and poor Frank was, and then Frank got castigated for his performance in the final.
Yeah,
that's football. That's what we have to put up with. That's what players have to put up with.
Of course it is.
Well,
Alan,
yeah.
50th anniversary to Alan Little, by the way. It's 50 years tomorrow since his first ever match, August 17th, 1974.
Congratulations, Alan. Congratulations.
Go on, George. You were going to make a point.
Yeah, the other thing with this business of players and crowd wanting out the other, you also get the other side where players who think they're better than they are, that believe their own bloody publicity, leave Newcastle United and disappear. And we've had quite a few of those. And I've played with one of them called Alan Suggett. I remember when he came to St James's he was barely 14 the first time they brought him. And they were all talking about this kid, how fantastic he was going to be. And he was in the first team quite quickly. But then he believed his own publicity and forced a transfer and went to Blackpool. Who's ever heard of Alan Suggett after that? If he'd stayed at Newcastle, I think he would have been a superstar. But he went, So there's all sides to that coin. All I'm disappointed about is it's Miggy, because he seems to be a very genuine guy. That smile's very infectious, and we should capitalise on some of that. We shouldn't be castigating it all. The other thing, as I say, Rafa brought him not just as a winger; he brought him as an attacking midfielder from America. He's never had the opportunity to do that for us. He does it very nicely for Peru. Anybody wants to watch a Peru match, watch the real Miggy.
Paraguay.
Yeah, good
Paraguay.
Paraguay. Yeah, Paraguay. Yeah, there's a few people got that wrong in the chat. You're not the only one, George. No, we're not doing dog pictures yet. Look, I see Jules already asking for lookalikes. It's not time for the lookalikes yet because we've got a lot more of these to get through. I do like your photos in there. This one was doing the rounds last week before I went away, and it's fantastic. That, especially with us, talking to Derek Wright last week about the season that he arrived, and here we are, coming into that period of Derek Wright becoming physio. Kevin Keegan and that 82-83 squad the season before promotion, and a wonderful shot of the old West Stand, and of course one of the Newcastle Brewery's vans there. But fantastic, that great stuff. Some great memories, some great players, and I do like an old photo, as everybody here has tuned in to NUFC Matters over the years will know. Anyway. This is a funny one. Short women, when we break up, I can keep my pictures. That's what this guy does. He did short women. And Ian Hull, thanks for this. Keith Richards teaching Willie Nelson how to play guitar.
Very good.
Only an island would you see donkey given directions. And I'm in the mood for dancing, romancing. Very good.
Oh, dear.
Why have August made curtains looking like John Player Special Super Kings?
Class.
Brilliant, that isn't it? People now across the northeast wanting to get some of them. And no wonder this guy's never found it. It's on a roundabout in Hampshire. You come from dust, you'll return to dust. That's why I don't dust. It could be someone I know.
Oh,
That's a good sign, that man on woman. What was happening on this backseat? Who knows, Ian? Who knows?
who knows?
And yes, T-Tank. Yeah, not sure these shops should have been selling next to each other. Definitely not, mate. Definitely not. And this is fantastic, this review. We've got another review, guys. Most helpful reviews for this stuff. I ran out of strawberry jam, so I used this to put it on the kids' rice pudding. They couldn't tell the difference, and they're pretty intelligent. Any more reviews like that, please send them. Ian Hull, I've just bought a sweet car online. I bought it off Neil Diamond.
God.
Very good, Ian. Very good. I've resisted the temptation to sing. Ian, this was good as well. Mole catcher, frog juggler, chicken whisperer, squirrel matador. I wonder if anyone's ever rang that number, Ian. And this is what Coke looks like when it's sun bleached. I found it on the railroad tracks.
Ah,
God, yes. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
The horse needs a vet.
Everett Vacuum, everything we sell sucks. Good sign. And Chelsea getting ready to welcome their new players to training on the first day. Jimmy Wilson, thanks for this one, and thanks for all the ones you sent us. 11 years ago today, my pal James came running out shouting, "It's a boy," with tears streaming down his face. We never went back to Thailand. And why did James Bond go grey? There was no time to die, guys.
Oh, dear.
very good.
And Paul, good one. Mr. Cadbury met Miss Roundtree on a double-decker. It was after 8. They got off at Quality Street. He asked her name. Polo. I'm the one with the hole, she said, with a whisper. I'm Marathon, the one with the nuts, he replied. He touched her cream eggs and slipped his hand into her Snickers. He fondled her flapjacks as he rubbed his Tic Tacs. It was a fab moment as she screamed in Turkish delight, and he shot his chewy centre. But 3 days later, his sherbet dib-dab started to itch. Turns out Miss Roundtree had been with Bertie Bassett, and he's got feckin' all sorts. Very clever. That was done in the best Ronnie Barker delivery, I would say. I decided to make sure my wife woke up with a big smile on her face this morning. I can't have Sharpies in the house anymore.
Oh.
And felt uncomfortable driving into the cemetery. The GPS blurted out, "You have reached your final destination."
Yeah, me.
And Bigfoot is sometimes confused with Sasquatch, yet he never complains.
Oh, dear.
And before calculators, people used
Abacus. Oh.
an abacus. Yeah, very good. And beer can do miracles, lads. In order to make an appointment, he first had to update his operating system, download an app, get a username, choose a password, log into a health portal, navigate the messages, write his doctor. By then, it was too late. Definitely a sign of the times, Ian. Definitely a sign of the times. And hey, Malcolm, I see that Renegade Master's back once again with the ill behaviour. And airport bars are magical places where no one judges you for drinking at 9 a.m. Mitch and Stu and Steve can probably agree with that one. Yeah.
It's the place where it's always 5 p.m.
It is always 5 p.m. You're right. And I just wanted the BLT with cheese, not judgment. Very clever. Very clever. And this one, turns out my doctor has no sense of humour.
He's still something.
A little stool in there. And no trespassing, we're tired of hiding the bodies. That's excellent. What a great sign. I have two hobbies, alcohol and swimming with dolphins.
Yeah.
And this was brilliant, by the way. Michael Lavery. I thought she was wearing a black dress and had her hands on her hips. Coming up to the last few, it's a me patio.
I love that.
That is good. That is good. There's been some great ones this week. Hold me pram and don't pat the outstation. I'll be back tomorrow, says Mark Drummond. And Tony, this was good as well. Take it down your strides and point your backside to the clouds while I fill you full of unleaded. This was a sign in America, of course. Caution, do not insert your mouth or rectum. Why on earth would anyone do that? Mr. Bit, the window cleaner. Very good. And by replacing your morning coffee with green tea, you can lose up to 80% of what joy you still have left in your life. And just got hospitalised due to a peekaboo accident. They put me in the ICU.
ICU. Oh, dear.
And security notice, all employees must wear ID badges when entering.
Oh. Mm.
I did think this was good as well. Very good cake, that. Very good cake. Nice picture of a cake. We've got this one as well. I'm a joker. I'm a smoker. He's a judge. Top two. Bad signage, lads. Bad signage. And the winner this week is a bad tattoo. Hey, Pooh, you in there?
Oh, dear.
God knows who's got that. If you've got some tweets you want to send us to cheer everybody up going into the weekend, Facebook group, join it, Facebook page, like it, or at Steve Wraith on X. Send us a message and we will feature your tweets of the week next week. Still plenty to come up with on the Amigos in the next hour, and Andre is back to Instato with one of his videos as well. But we're going to have a quick ad break. We will be back after this.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find their website at skipsandbins.com. Contact us, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to United Group Travel. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners in 2024. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts. You can find them at www.media-arts.co.uk. And don't forget, we are a podcast. You can find us on iTunes or Spotify or other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel grow, then hit the like button, the little thumb underneath the video, click share and share to your social media, or join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to take out a one-off payment membership, go to nufcmatters.com and hit membership. And for a £25 fee, you get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. You can also put a smartphone over the top of this QR code. It'll take you straight there. And don't forget, we also help the food bank on this channel. nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk is a website where you can make a virtual donation today.
And as always, thank you to everyone tuning in this Friday night. We've got 1,100 of you watching live, 618 on YouTube currently, and we've got over 500 watching on Twitter. We never take your support for granted. Thanks very much. If you are watching on Twitter, by the way, jump over to YouTube, search NUFC Matters on YouTube, and do us a favour, hit the little thumb, the like button, and click on the subscribe button as well. That does do us a big favour. We do 7 shows a week, and it is free to subscribe. You don't have to pay. And here are our stats for last month: 171 new subscribers, 180,000.3 total views, and 2.8 million minutes watched. Thanks again for the support.
Unbelievable.
Never take it for granted, and big thank you for that. We did ask you a while back as well your views on potentially doing a fanzine, something which I'm probably best known for in amongst the fan base. A lot of people know all about it. Different magazines that we've done. It's the Number 9. We did the Mighty Quinn. Well, after a bit of debate, a bit of talking, we have decided to do one. It is going to be called NUFC Matters. We're going to do 4 in a season, and it is going to be a non-profit venture for us. We are going to donate the proceeds from the fanzine to the charity that we support, Dementia Matters. To do this, obviously, we have to have a cost. We have to have a charge, a subscription fee, and we've had some great offers of help from lots of people. For starters, the people who already contribute to the show, the likes of Mitch, Steve, Joe, George, that you see on the screen, have all decided to write articles. I'll stick one in as well. Robert Maltman, who does our design for our flyers, has already knocked up the cover. NUFC fanzine. There you go, NUFC Matters fanzine, issue 1 will be out on the 1st of October. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. Sandro Tonali featuring on our very first front cover. But the subscription will be £32 for your postage in the 4 magazines. If you live abroad, there'll also be a charge on there as well. If you go to newcastlelegends.com's website, you'll be able to order the subscription now. We've set a deadline of the 1st of September for articles. So if anyone's interested in writing an article, give me a shout on X. I'll tell you how you can do it. It's going to be 24 pages. We've already had a couple of offers of help, obviously, for sponsorship as well. Maybe carry an ad within the magazine. So it's safe to say that this is going to make a decent chunk of money for Dementia Matters, which is what we want to do. But also gives you an opportunity to see your name in lights, to see your name in print, and to be able to put something in there if you want to, if you want to make a point about something, if you want to promote something. So we are going to do it. We'll give it a go next season. Lots of people suggested it was a great idea. But if you go to newcastlelegends.com, hit the shop thing at the top, you'll be able to subscribe to the fanzine. And as I say, the subscription covers the 4 issues in the season starting on the 1st of October, and also covers your postage. So more about that. You'll get sick of hearing us talking about it, but hopefully we can do 200 subscriptions. That would come very close, I guess, to helping Dementia Matters people buy a minibus, which is something that they're absolutely desperate for. So fingers crossed. Keep you posted on that. Okay, Sean, good evening. He says, Steve, shout out for Isak this evening. He's going into the weekend as everyone's fantasy football captain. Everyone's saying he's their first choice. What do you think he can achieve this year, Mitch?
Sky's the limit. I think he made a name for himself last year. He's looked in fine touch in pre-season. He's looked fairly lethal, to be honest with you, in pre-season, bar what was for him a poor penalty. Don't think on the Premier League stage he'd make the same mistake. So for me, and people still really aren't talking about them in the same way they're not talking about Newcastle United. Not being discussed as a Golden Boot contender. I'm sorry, how many goals did we score last season? We keep that form going and do better. He's in pole position to do whatever he wants in terms of goal tallies. The lad's got the lot. absolutely everything. It's on us to keep him fit. But I think there's already signs for me in pre-season that he looks in the best shape that we've ever had him in. And he looks like he's gained a bit of strength. He looks harder to shift off the ball. And it really is in his own hands. I think he could certainly top 20 goals this season. I can see why so many people have got him in their fantasy league teams. Because he'll probably not be at the top dollar price, because the way everybody's talking Newcastle down this season, almost forgetting that we're around. And so, you know, in terms of how fantasy leagues work, he's probably a bloody bargain.
George, Alexander Isak, what's the season goal for him, do you think?
Whatever he wants it to be. It's in him to make it what he wants it to be. And he looks hungry. The very sharp way he nipped in for some of those sneaky goals during the pre-season matches showed how sharp he already is. He has the ability to run people down, dribble his way down. He has the ability to just outrun people. He has an amazing shot in either foot, as it happens, and he's good in the air. What more can you ask from a striker? So it's up to him as much as anything. Alexander Isak can be what he wants to be in terms of striker in the Premier League or any other league. And I always, when I think about him, I knew nothing about him at all. But when I heard his mentor, Ibrahimovic, the big Swedish star, the man who scored more goals than anybody else, waxing lyrical about this young striker, that made me sit up and take notice. He showed everything that Ibrahimovic said we would see. Pace, skill, game sense. He's got the knack of being able to stay on side. He very rarely gets caught offside because he's learned his trade on diagonal runs. So he can be as big as he wants to be. And I'll be amazed if he's not there or thereabouts for the Golden Boot at the end of this season. And the other thing that we're going about is keeping him fit. Well, we now have a new performance director who seems to have a good record on that elsewhere he's been. And maybe he knows things about what to do with Ibrahimovic. And it's Ibrahimovic with Isak. And if only we had Ibrahimovic, my God, what a centre forward he was. But anyway, this injury thing, they never investigate. I don't know what they investigate. I mean, over the years, this has gone on for years and years and years. I'm not going to go back too far, but Ronnie Simpson, we're all goalkeeper, not a very big goalkeeper, 5'10". Charlie Mitten hated him because of that, but because he wanted to jump higher than everybody else, he took ballet lessons, for God's sake. Striker Pop Robson, always going off with groin injuries. What did he do? His wife was a dance teacher, so he went and took dancing lessons. You know, all these weird little things people do is to keep themselves fit and stop these niggling injuries. I suspect our new performance director will probably be doing some of that over at Long Benton when he gets the chance. But centre forward can be what he wants to be, Steve, is what I'm trying to say. That's how good he is.
Yeah, Alexander Isak is certainly a lot of people's favourites to become the top goal scorer, and I guess Erling Haaland, Steve, will have something to say about that. But I guess a lot of it depends on the injury situation with Alexander Isak. I dare say Callum Wilson would give him a run for his money if he stayed fit.
Absolutely, that's the key with Isak. We're hoping that some strength and conditioning of certain areas of his body have been worked on during the close season. He didn't have a Euros, so he's had plenty of time to rest and build himself up. And any little injury niggles that he had and any problems that might have occurred over the last couple of years might have settled down, and like the strength and conditioning that he's done might have helped in that respect. But the guy is a phenomenal footballer. He's got everything going for him. He's got height. He's good in the air. He's 2-footed. And I think one of the things he's going to benefit from even more this season is the fact that he's built quite a nice little sort of relationship, not just with Anthony Gordon, but also with Bruno in the middle and also with Joe Linton. I think that the way that they've been able to work the line together, the three of them, and then you stick Bruno with his ability to see a run and see a pass and hit it from distance if necessary, or to turn and play a quick ball rather than dwell on the ball. All of those sort of things all play into the hands of when you've got a striker like Alexander Isak. And when he's 1-on-1 or when he's 1-on-2 or 1-on-3, there's probably nobody better in the league. And I think there's plenty of defenders last season who suffered from that. You know, the number of defenders that he left on his backside when he was coming towards them, because he has this ability to be able to turn inside and outside in quick time. The movement's fantastic. And he does it with the ball at his feet, and he keeps control of the ball. Very rarely do you see him lose possession of the ball. So I'm looking forward to what hopefully can be a tremendous season. And I think you're right, Steve. With Callum Wilson, a fit Callum Wilson, we've got someone who can play slightly different, and that gives us a slight edge. But also, when they have been on the pitch together, again, they seem to work together. So Isak is one of those players who can play up front on his own. He can rely on a wide man or someone feeding the ball, but he can also feed off and feed a striker who's that little bit further advanced from him. So all of those things just blend in perfectly for me. And I think also Isak might be one of these players who benefit from the fact that we're not in 4 competitions this season. We're getting a chance to work on the training pitch together rather than sitting in an aeroplane and looking at videos and that type of thing in terms of how we're wanting to play the game and what we're wanting from each other. So all of those might blend in, and we can see hopefully some goals. And he can, if he can keep fit, there's no question he can be certainly up there as a front runner for the Golden Boot by the end of the season, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about prices, Joe, for Alexander Isak. He's coming in and in and in and in, isn't he, at the moment? Alan McKenzie actually feels like he's actually been robbed a little bit, I think, by the bookies. He has even started. He said, popping into Willie Miller today, I only got 12-1 for Isak. Half time, 12-1 to win the FA Cup and League Cup, 28-1 to win the Premier League. I think I've been gypped.
He won't want to hear this because he's as tight as asses, Maureen tells me. But he's no, them prices are right. They're right, Alan, Mr. McKenzie, should I say? Yeah, they're right. And isn't it? I think I said was it last week when we did the prices? You know, just to think about a Newcastle United centre forward being that high up. Yeah. He's always going to be behind Erling Haaland, although they'll be in League Two by the time we kick off tomorrow. So there's I can't wax lyrical enough about this lad. When was the last time we had a central striker as gifted as he is? You know, maybe not his finishing or comparing him to kind of Alan Shearer and stuff doesn't seem right. But I tell you what a footballer. He's absolutely sublime. The speed of his feet, his movement. Steve stole me thunder a little bit. You know, to see him putting Premier League defences on their backsides, literally on their backsides, and just dicky dancing around. The assist for the Jacob Murphy goal at Goodison Park, the boy is just absolutely phenomenal. And I think one of the helpful things about the Asula signing, we talked about can we rely on Callum Wilson and will we run Isak into the ground? Steve just said, we haven't got as many games this season. I'd like us to be in the Champions League, but you know what? This might just be one of them seasons where I can just concentrate on 38 Premier League games and hopefully a decent cup run. But he doesn't have to play for 90 minutes now. We've got some options. Hopefully we will be bringing another forward in that will only enhance those options. I just sit back and watch him. He's just fantastic. I hope that Premier League defenders don't get wise to him. I hope they don't start kicking him a bit harder than they already try and do, because that would be a shame. But I think this lad's good enough to get one step ahead of them. And you get close to me, I'll beat you with my pace. You stand off me, I'll put you on your backside. He's absolutely wonderful. And the question was around how many goals will he score? keep him fit, keep him in the side, get Anthony Gordon and Harvey Barnes buzzing. Get Bruno a little bit further forward up the park when Tonali comes back in. The sky's the limit for him. I would like to think he'd score. He's going to score at least 15, isn't he? Let's be honest. If not 20, if not 55, and break the record. So yeah, he's wonderful.
Yeah, I'll tell you what else is interesting about him. He's not a player who relies on physicality. He's not a centre forward who is completely physical. He's not a Wilson with arms and elbows. He's not an Erling Haaland who wants to be a battering ram. He's a different type of centre forward, and that's what's freaking out defenders. They can't work him out.
Yeah.
No, definitely can't. But Sula, as well.
I think even if this. Sorry. Even if they think they've got him, that's the big thing for me with Isak. Even when they think they've got him, he just gets a run and they realise they haven't got him at all because they're sitting on the backside. No, he's magic.
Yeah, Asula is an interesting one as well, Mitch. I mean, he came in. He's only played a few moments on the pitch really for Newcastle. Scored a goal, was disallowed, and but it's. People saying it's been a bad window, but it's not over yet. We started the program saying that, and I think Asula's got a lot of promise. Big lads, quick, not quite Alexander Isak, but you know what? He looks like a powerhouse, like Donald says.
He showed enough in that game for me to see why we signed him. We were talking that we were almost looking for a unicorn, somebody who would come in and was happy to play third fiddle because it was clear Wilson was going nowhere, but could bring something else to the party. It would ideally be somebody young who could develop, but who already had a degree of talent that could possibly press on just naturally. And I think he seemed to show enough of that to me from what I saw the game streamed over here, that he has that, and I think the money we've paid for him could turn out to be exceptional business going forward if he develops. Hopefully, how Eddie Howe is able to bring him on. We know how he can bring players on. Imagine the kind of shift he has if it was a Joe Linton type shift. We're going to be startled at that kind of money if he suddenly starts banging them in left and right. He took that chance very well. Yes, if there was VAR, he might have been on, he might have been off. But what impressed me was he was cool as ice when he put it away. There was no messing about there. And so for a player who we were told doesn't score goals, he had all the body language of a player who knows how to find the back of the net to me. And he was more physical than I realised that he was. I think he could turn out to be a genuine bargain and fills that role we were desperate for. That third choice striker who is here to learn, develop and grow, can learn off of two of the best in different ways. Going forward, he's got a fantastic opportunity to work with Isak and Wilson and pick bits up off of both of them going forward. And he's got the physicality almost of Wilson and the pace and the touch of Isak. I mean, in relative terms, that's what it looks like he could have. This is all potential, but what potential? I think we're going to look back on that transfer in 2 years' time and think we had Sheffield United's eyes out there.
Yeah, George, thoughts on Asula? Certainly looks the part.
Well, I said when we bought him, I peeped at videos of him and doing all sorts of things and thought very impressed. But that cameo on that match the other day, and the goal was onside in my opinion, but the important thing is the way he put it away. The way he was able to, in a very experienced way, open his body and kid the goalkeeper he was going one way and slotted it in the other side. Now that sometimes takes years to teach young strikers. He's already got it. So I agree with Neil. I think it'll not be 2 years. I think by Christmas he'll be knocking on the door to be number 2. That's how good he could be with the coaching he's going to get at Benton off the team up there, and it will be money well spent, and his. Again, I agree with Neil. His physicality surprised me. I didn't realize he was 6'3". I thought he was, 5'10"ish, 6 foot. But he's all that. But also he has the balance as well for such a big player. He's not going to be one of these big strikers who's going to be spending a lot of time on his backside. We've had lots of them, and he's not going to be one of them because he's got fleet of foot and the balance to go with it. So I'm as excited about seeing him doing things as I am with some of the others, because there's nothing like it, having a couple of good goal scorers in your side. I mean, I've been spoiled. I've seen Jackie Milburn and George Robledo together. 30 goals and 32 goals in the same season. That would be lovely, wouldn't it? And we would win everything if we could get 2 strikers that could do that. And I think that kid alongside Isak or alongside Wilson could be a very useful addition. Money well spent, as Neil said, and I quite agree.
Money well spent, Steve Basula.
Yeah, money well spent, definitely. I'm looking at a list of players here, Steve, that we like, past strikers, past players that we bought. And I honestly believe that of the list of players that I've just jotted down here that we've bought as strikers over the last 15 years, that this lad is one of those players that probably would excite us more than any of the others. So you've got like Zamblera, Best, Edmondson, Faria, Behang, Alan Smith, Joselu, De Jong, Shefty Kuchi, Dumbia, Slimani, Riviere, Murphy, Cisco, Harewood, Muto, Ivan Toney, Gouffran. They're all players that we bought as strikers, and I bet you any money this lad ends up scoring more goals than any of those players as striker for Newcastle United. Yeah. Because what he'll have is he'll have A, the opportunity, and B, he'll have Eddie Howe, and he'll also have the opportunity to learn from Wilson and Isak. And with the likes of Murphy on one side and the likes of
Gordon.
Gordon on the other, and the likes of Bruno feeding him and Longstaff and such like. This lad's got a great opportunity at his age and at the money that we've paid for him to turn into a very, very good striker for Newcastle United. Because like you say, on that list that I've read out there, we've bought some duff ones. We've spent an awful lot of money on some of them as well, and they were absolutely useless. So I think this lad's got an opportunity in the modern game to actually really, really take Newcastle United to another level. He's come in as a number 3, and you know what? He could well suddenly find himself a number 2, and if there's injuries, then he's going to be expected to turn into a number 1, and the expectations on him, it's just a case of whether the kid can keep his feet on the ground and perform. And you look at that little cameo last week, you think, and he's got something.
Steve, can I put another name on you?
Yeah.
You're another Danish lad, Jon Dahl Thomason.
Yeah.
Came, looked fantastic pre-season. Then we did get injuries, and the weight of the world was on his shoulder, and he fluffed his lines on the opening day against Sheffield Wednesday, and he never recovered from that. No. And that's where we can play up with him. That we can just show him the love he needs and bear with him and understand why he's been brought in and what we can do with him going forward. And if we can help him in his development by showing a lot of love and patience with him as well, we've got to genuinely, you could see, it's sticking on a note on the end of the figure we paid for him if he develops in the way that he's got the potential to.
Yeah, and what you've just said, Mitch, as well, you look at some of those players on that list, players who came and really didn't get off to a very good start, and again, because of the tight fan base we had, turned into targets, if you like. They ended up running around with the targets on the back. Whether you're talking about Alan Smith or Gouffran or Dumbia or Shefty Kuchi and De Jong, perfect example. There's a player who went on to do wonderful things. Joselu, You know, he won the European Cup last season, for goodness sake. You know, he played in the Euros in the summer and won. He plays for Madrid now. You know, sometimes a player can get off to a bad start, and as it was, and the whole career can be, you know, it can be ripped apart at Newcastle very, very quickly. We've just got to be patient with the lad, but the lad is going to have the advantage of having an Eddie Howe behind him who very quickly coach him into exactly what he wants to do. He'll know the runs he's wanting them to make, and the lad, if he's got a football brain, will be making those runs that he's expected to make.
Big thanks to Ian McKenzie, by the way. I've just noticed he's purchased, I think, about 15 memberships for people in the chat. We get 10 that we can sort out for people each month. So we've given our 10 away this month. But fantastic, generous thing to do that, Ian. So thank you very much for doing that. Yeah, Sula, Joe. I mean, he's he's down the pecking order. Really, he's in third place, but tomorrow he'll be in second place because obviously no Callum Wilson. We're led to believe tomorrow anyway, unless Eddie's kidding us on a little bit. But you would imagine Asula's going to feature at some point tomorrow.
Yeah, and you know, what an opportunity if you think about it. You know, he's just been relegated with arguably the worst Premier League side we've ever seen, barring that Mackems one. And you know, what was he actually looking forward to? You know, little bits and bobs, little cameos in the Championship, maybe. Would he get farmed out on loan? Would he end up at the club? You know, in Europe somewhere, and actually what he's about to do is arguably get some minutes on the pitch for Newcastle United in the Premier League in front of 52,000 people tomorrow. So I'd like to think there's no pressure in that. I'd like to think he won't sleep the night, surely, and go out and enjoy yourself, son. You know, as long as a fans, you know, supporters in that club tomorrow, if he does fluff his lines, let's not get straight on his back and start hissing at him. You know, he's a bairn at the end of the day. We got behind Lewis Miley and look what happened, you know, and this lad's exactly the same. So what can possibly go wrong? And I'll say this all the time, and as much as he's the greatest player to ever play the game, look at Joe Linton. And if Eddie Howe can do that with Joe Linton, a footballer that didn't even look like a footballer, imagine what he can do with this lad if he's got the pace, he's got the power, he's got the you know, the skills clearly, and he's going to get one of the best coaches around at the moment, kind of showing him what to do and how to do it. And just watch where Callum Wilson stands here, and just watch what Isak does when the ball comes into his feet. What an opportunity. And he was 10 million quid. We started the show talking about should we pay 70, 80 for a centre-back. This lad was 10 million, so relatively, he's an absolute drop in the ocean, isn't he? So from the football club's perspective, what could go wrong? Sheffield United get their 10 million, so they're happy with that. And he gets the opportunity to score at the Delegate tomorrow. Wow. So, you know, I'll be really interested to see how he gets on. You know, if you're old enough, you know, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And he's going to, you know, he'll come on tomorrow. And I want to see him, you know, bang a header in at the Gallagher then to make it 6-0. I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah, Sanusi not going out on loan either. Eddie clearly sees something in him. I think we've all seen something in him. Young lads who will need to be nurtured and brought up the right way.
You're applying to science.
You're applying to science. Fits in with Mitchell's, you know, philosophy as well to bring youngsters through. So yeah, good luck to him. And Dean, I'm sure there will be a song. I'll certainly not be writing it, but I'm sure there'll be somebody out there, as Malcolm used to say.
Singing it though.
Who's the person who makes these songs up and sends them out? It's like Supermax Superstar. How many goals have he scored so far? Great story that. Just a quick shout out for this. We did something last Sunday. Three's a Crowd will be reappearing this Sunday. Me, Ted the Mackham, and Rye the Smoggy, who's Cocker Hoop this week, by the way, who did the North East Football Breakfast Show last year for a full year. We aren't on the airwaves at the moment. We may be back in January. We will wait and see what happens. But for the meantime, we are just doing it once a week. Three's a Crowd. It was well responded to. Lots of people said they loved it. And yeah, we will be talking about the North East football teams. Sunday afternoon, 2:30, because the Mackems play. So it gives us an opportunity to have a right laugh at them, and probably have a laugh with Ted about the strip that they've brought out, which I beggars belief that they had a go at us about having a red strip, as they call it, only for them to bring out a strip this week which has black and white on it. And it's neither something or nothing. I'm not really sure what on earth that they've been thinking of, creating something that essentially has been inspired by 70s paisley with a modern microwave of Weatherspoons and seagulls, as Deli Al-Ramayan quite rightly said. But yeah, it does even look like somebody's pajamas.
It's not a mining heritage. It's the heritage of man at sea and air.
Wow, definitely a strange choice, but yeah, we will be talking to Ted about that. 2:30 this Sunday, 3 the crowd. Tune in. It looks like it's going to become a regular for this season. Okay,
we've got to cater for all our fans with 6 fingers.
got about half an hour left. We've still got a lot to get through. Here's Toon Lookalike. As always, we start with a hasty, very good for all hasty fans.
Very legal, that looking. Right.
Yeah, and Todd spend Bowley with seemingly no consequence, and Grima Wormtongue. Grima. So yeah, it's not bad. That's not bad. We'll get off to a slow start. Snoop Dogg, we'll love to send them in. That is very good. This looks nothing like me, Gawain, but I have featured it. Here's lookalike for you. Is this Phil Collins 1990s or Steve Brave?
It does look like somebody other than Phil Collins, so I cannot put my finger to it.
Yeah, it could be George. Yeah, maybe it's George. Yeah, maybe. This one as well. Haaland or Scarlett Johansson. And Geordie Jackson and Rita, thanks for this. Steve Parrish and Dobby the House Elf.
Classic.
We'll keep getting sent this. She's looking fab. A woman at the bar and a fab lolly. Never get sick of this one either. Not every day you get to meet the fella off the Fivers. And in the death throes of the Olympics, was this an Olympic runner or was it John Beresford?
Oh, poor John.
An Italian runner or John Beresford. Ian Hull, thanks for this one. The Bills, PCs, Reg Hollis and Steve Parrish.
Class.
That's good, that.
I've never had this one before. Imre Varadi and Oliver Hardy.
No.
Yeah, I don't think it's his dad, but it looks a little. I can see a similarity.
That was Stan Laurel.
This one from Rob, who does Tuesday show. Says I couldn't resist taking this picture. Montrose High Street, Steve Hasty.
Yep, that's me.
You didn't even didn't say hello to him. The winner this week by a country mile is this, and I'm gonna ask the lads. I've separated the photo. Who's this, lads? No.
Beavers and Butthead.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
Excellent, very good. Yeah, Beavers and Butthead. The strange thing is, lads, where is that? Whose hand is that? In the middle.
Yeah, it's a bit worrying, isn't it?
It is, but fantastic. That. Thank you for that.
What they're doing with the other hand, we need to be worried about.
Some great lookalikes there. Absolutely brilliant. If you've got lookalikes, send them to the Facebook group, Facebook page. Join the group, like the page, or at Steve Reid on X, and we will feature them next week. Okay, about this time on the Amigos, we start looking ahead to the game that will take place at the weekend. And of course, Newcastle United take on Southampton tomorrow, 3 o'clock kickoff at the start of the Premier League season. June Stato gives us his views.
Hello everyone, and the new season in the Premier League is just around the corner. Newcastle starts against Southampton at home tomorrow. And Southampton are a newly promoted side after getting relegated in 2023 and beating Leeds at the playoff final in May. And Newcastle has lost only one game against the newly promoted side in their last 20 games, and that was away to Luton last season. Actually, Southampton have won only once in their last 14 games against Newcastle back in November 2020 during the COVID times, and at the time they went top of the league after beating us 2-0 at their place. At St. James's Park, it's even worse. They have only one win against Newcastle in their last 20 games. That was back in January 2015. And overall, Eddie Howe is 5 wins out of 5 games against Southampton ever since he came at the club. Famously, Bruno Guimaraes also scored his first goal for Newcastle against Southampton, that backheel volley. When it comes to players, Alexander Isak scored 21 goals in the Premier League last season, a record since Alan Shearer, 22 back in 2003-2004. And Newcastle had the biggest differential in terms of points gained at home versus away last season. They won 40 of their total 60 points at St. James's Park. So let's see what the new season has to bring. Away the lads.
And it's time to play Joe's music. What have you got for us, Joe?
How good is it? How good is this to hear Andre back and we're going to give some prices for Premier League game. I've looked forward to this for absolutely months. So, unsurprisingly, as Andreas said, Newcastle United are absolutely head and shoulders favourite tomorrow. It's barely worth putting your money on them. The bookmakers have got them at 7-20 to win the football game. So basically what that means is we're extremely clear favourites. The draw is a massive 9-2 and Southampton are an even bigger 7-1. So it's very, very clear what the bookmakers think the result is going to be. Tomorrow, the over-under goal scorers, goals market is a market I really enjoy. But you actually have to go all the way up to there being at least 4 goals in the game before you even get to evens money. So again, the bookmakers are suggesting there's going to be lots and lots of goals as well. Alexander Isak, timely there that we've just had the conversation, is absolute favourite to score in the game at any time, and that's 4-7. But Asula does make the list, and he is actually our second favourite to score any time in the game. And you can get just over evens if you think that Asula will score on debut. A bet that I really like is Anthony Gordon at 6-4. I hope he comes back, ploughs through all the nonsense transfer rumours linking him with Liverpool in the summer, and just comes back and does what he does best. So I'll be on Anthony Gordon tomorrow. Miggy Almiron, a player that we've mentioned, is 5-2 to score a goal at any time in the game, and Bruno Guimaraes is 7-2. Our old mate, Mr. Armstrong, he is just under 3-1 if you think he will score for Southampton. In terms of the actual result, we've got 2-0 Newcastle, 17-2. I've seen a few people mention 2-1 Newcastle. That is 7-1. Mr. Penman can have 10-1 if he thinks it'll be 3-1. If you want to go daft, 5-0 is 33-1. That's also the same price, though, if you think we'll get beat 1-0. That's 33-1. And if a disaster happens and we lose the game 2-0, Southampton fans can get 60-1 for that. If you think it'll be a draw, 0-0 is 25-1. And ones each is 10-1. So clearly the bookmakers think A, Newcastle will win, and B, there will be lots and lots of goals. In terms of my interest bet last week, my 8-1 Championship Goal Fest was beaten by 1 goal. So thanks Stoke City for that. This week, for there to be 2 goals in every game in the Championship tomorrow, that is 10-1. So I'll have another go. Please bet safely, everybody. And get your money on Anthony Gordon, because I think that's a safe bet.
Don't mute, Steve.
Thanks for that, everybody. Make sure you bet responsibly, as Joe says. Steve Middlemas will look into this. There has been some talk about some changes. They just say they're going to make it better, Steve. There is going to be new technology added, and it's supposed to be a lot better. So we will wait
And
and
it's
see.
apparently not happening until after the international break.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I guess
Wonderful.
wait and see what happens.
We've got full faith in that.
Okay, Mark Byers will add this to this part of the show. He says, starting 11 prediction, lads. Will he play Hall at left back or Kelly? Will he play Kelly at centre back or Byrne? If he insists on Byrne centre back and Kelly left back, I'd play Hall midfield instead of Longstaff. He did well in pre-season. This has probably been the conversation in most people's WhatsApp groups, George, and most people's inboxes. However you choose to communicate with your fellow Toon fan, trying to second guess Eddie's team, it's like mission impossible. I think we all know Nick Pope will start in goal. I think we all know Alexander Isak will play up front. I think we all know that Bruno Guimaraes will feature in midfield. And I think we all know that at some point, the fact that he's fit, that we will see Fabian Schär as well. It sounded like he was fully fit tomorrow. After that, the rest is up in the air, George. What do you reckon he's going to do tomorrow? What do you reckon he's going to do?
Well, I would like to see him start Livramento. Give faith to the young man who's looking increasingly better, especially as Kieran Trippier for me's got one eye out the door already. I think I could be wrong about that, but he's some of his body language and so on during the pre-season matches, and the way he went about making sure Bruno got the cup at the end of the match the other day suggested to me he's already got one foot out the door. But never mind. But Livramento would start for me anyway, and Fabian Schär fit will always start for me. You got everything with him. It wouldn't surprise me tomorrow, depending on how we play, if he started this season with a goal, because he's due one, and I think Southampton's right for him because they might back off so far, they'll give him one of those 25-yard chances that he'll take. Centre back, I think, for me, having seen how he's played, it would be Kelly. He just looks the part. I wouldn't be upset if it was Dan Byrne, though, because he'll get 100% and you know he'll do everything for you. And on the same basis as the right side, I would give the youngster a chance. Hall's earned a shirt, whether it be left back or in midfield, I don't know, but I think I would give him his chance at left back. He's earned it. Midfield, if Joe Linton's fit, so Joe Linton will play. Bruno will play. For me, alongside them, it would be Sean Longstaff. I keep saying, and people probably get bored of me saying it, he's the one midfielder you know that if he gets the ball, his first instinct is to play the ball forward, not backwards, not sideways, forward. And that's very, very important. And if his shooting boots are on like he was in the pre-season games, he could well be amongst the goals tomorrow. Up front, Isak picks himself, Gordon picks himself. The only debate is about who will start on the right side. Will it be Murphy? Will it be Miggy? Will it be Barnes? It could easily be Barnes, who's well capable of playing on either wing. Isn't the plus side for us for this first match that we've got choices and we've got people on the bench? Look how we spent the best part of the back end of last season, with 3 bloody goalkeepers as substitutes. And that's not that we don't need that this year. So, I'm just excited that we've got choices. And of course, sitting on the bench, you're going to have one new centre forward, I hope, and others to go with him. So, and this young Sanusi, or whatever how you pronounce his name, I wouldn't mind him getting on the pitch and putting Southampton through the ringer. Is that too much of a pun? But never mind. We've got choices. That's the big thing.
See what comes out in the wash.
Yeah.
We could spin that for a while, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Look, I'm expecting a good game. Do you want a prediction?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Jody Tubalike says Pope, Trippier, Shaw, Byrne, Hall, Bruno, Joelinton, Longstaff, Gordon, Isak, and Murphy. That's my prediction on what Howe will pick. Very similar to Spenny's team. Spenny was pretty much going with that as well. I think the Hall thing at left back, though, I think Trippier at right back and Hall at left back. That could be where the surprise is. It really could be, because he may well go with Livramento at right back. And I think then we'll know a lot more about what potentially could happen in the next couple of weeks. He may well go with, he may well go with somebody different at left back. It'll be interesting. Yeah, Joe, thoughts on the selection tomorrow?
I think he has to play Livramento, doesn't he? I think he's tremendous. That for me, he's in my team. Obviously, the goalkeeper picks himself. Although I wanted our new goalkeeper to play just so I could listen to you, Rathi, try and pronounce it. But yeah, we'll stick with Pope just for week one. We'll go with Pope. For me, Livramento, Shah gets in any team any day of the week. And I do think it'll be Dan Burn alongside him and Lewis Hall. And I don't know whether that's wishful thinking, but I kind of hope we go into this season with Livramento on one side and Hall on the other, and let's start working on that. Sean Longstaff will play. Obviously, the other two midfielders will pick themselves. Our two Brazilian chums. And then, George is right. Isak will always play. Anthony Gordon will always play. And the first name that I wrote down was Harvey Barnes. I think this is going to be a big season for Harvey Barnes. And I do think he's a quality footballer. So I'd like to see Barnes with more time in the team, not just on the pitch, but starting the games. But I do think Eddie Howe will probably pick Jacob Murphy because that's what he does. That wing position will be interesting for me. I think given the injuries, given where we've got, I think the rest of it picks itself.
Yeah, Mitch, interesting, this team selection, but it's an exciting one because we're not, at this moment in time, after, with one game on the board, we're not struggling with injuries.
I think looking at how they've gone pre-season and how Eddie's played things in the past, I genuinely think he's only probably got one decision. It's Trippier or Livramento. Which way does he go with that? And I think he'll go with Livramento because he's had more minutes pre-season. And I think he'll go Livramento, Shaw, Byrne, Hall at left full-back. And then he'll go with Longstaff, Bruno and Joe in midfield. He'll go with Murphy right wing and Gordon left wing and Isak up front. But then that gives us so many options off the bench. I think the one link up that excited me in a number of moments in pre-season was Willock and Isak. Willock coming off the bench to interplay with Isak is going to terrify some defences. They're going to think, oh, great, such and such has gone off. We're going to get it. Oh, shit. It's one of those moments. As one goes off and somebody comes on who can still turn you inside out, but probably in a different way. They look like they're developing a connection, and that's going to give Eddie some problems selection-wise going forward. But these are wonderful problems to have. We've forgot how many players we were out long-term last season. And I don't want to trot out the shitty line about late new signings. We've just forgot about them. It's mad how, as a fan base, sometimes when we have players who are out injured, the longer they're out injured, the better they get. This crop of players, we've forgot about them. And they're there and they're coming back. I think it's quite clear there's a change in the guard in terms of who's going to wear the armband on the pitch. Wouldn't surprise me one little bit if Bruno has that armband from the get-go. That lifting of the Cellar Cup looked like a physical passing of the baton to me. And so that I find interesting too. And another reason why I don't know if Trippier will get the selection over Tino. Really excited. I couldn't be more excited for tomorrow. I'm like a Ben. I've just been speaking to Julie, who's the chair of the Dubai Mags. Well, obviously, first game in my new pub tomorrow. We have over 200 booked. We have the entire bar. Steve's been in the bar.
Yeah.
Apparently, the only bit left for the general public is a quarter of the beer garden.
Yeah, me.
The rest is us to buy mags out in force, and we've still got people on holiday.
Wow.
I'm blown away, and it's become what I'm loving about it. And she's just said this. We'll have to get her on, Steve, and do it to buy.
Yeah, well, she's been in Japan, so we've been waiting for her.
And it's not just about those of us who are behind the organisation now. People are taking ownership of everything. They're taking ownership of, right, I'm going to organise the fantasy football this year. I want to take over organising the games for the kids this year, because the new bar upstairs has football tables, pool tables, Pac-Man and Jenga and something else. So we've got proper family areas and no smoking areas for everybody. And it's not just my supporters club or Julie's supporters club. It's everybody's. And the spirit we've got in it is just mad, and it's so unlike. I don't know if I mentioned to you after the game, we had like a inaugural brunch last week to do some registration stuff, and I went back to Goodfellas to see how the Leeds lads were getting on, to find it empty and being disinfected because there'd been an incident during the Leeds game. So it was quite interesting, and that's what we will never be. It's everybody's club, and we're loving it at the minute, and we're starting a new season with genuine joy. The football's back, bring it on.
Yeah, it certainly is. We're talking teams though, Steve, before we get predictions. John says, afternoon, everyone. Lads, for me, Tino's got to start games apart from easier cup ties, even if it means at left back. He really is that good. Do you agree? That's the big one, isn't it? I think for most people, it's the rest of those big positions pick themselves. But, it does feel like there's been a handing over of the position. I mean, there is potential there for Trippier to play left back. After all, that's where he played for England.
What a choice to have. Do you play the man who's worn the armband for most of last season and the season before, with Lascelles not managing to get on the field, or do you bring the young gun in? That's the big question. What I can guarantee is there'll be no Lascelles, Wilson, Miley, Target, or Botman, because they're all injured, and there'll be no Tonali. So there's 6 of our squad out already. My lineup, I think, I'm going to go for, and I know this is going to sound, I'm obviously Pope in goal. I think you will go for Trippier, and I think we've got Burn and Hall. And if Shaw is fit, he plays. If Shaw isn't fit, I think he'll go for Emil Kraft ahead of Kelly, because I think Eddie has this thing about just keeping things tight, keeping it, and gradually bringing players into the squad as the season progresses. I think the midfield will be Longstaff, Bruno, and Joe Linton, and I think he'll go with Isak up front, obviously Gordon on the left, and I think it's a spin up between Murphy and Almiron. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Almiron, simply because of what's been said during the week, but Murphy has had a great pre-season, so if it was either of those, it wouldn't be bothered. I probably think he's going to go with Murphy. What interests me as well, Steve, is who'll be on the bench. Will he name 2 goalkeepers? If he does that leave a space or push out the space for young Sanusi? Will Willock be fit? Is Willock fit enough? And he implied that Willock wasn't fit, but is he fit enough to be on the bench? That would leave Barnes, Kraft, Asulo, Livramento, Almiron, Willock, Kelly, and the 2 goalkeepers, Dubravka and Vladimir Nos. Is that what it? Is that was? Did I get that right, Joe? Did I get that pronunciation right? So it's obviously we're all interested in what the first team is, and I think you'll go with the Murphy, Isak, and Gordon up front. I think that's the way that it'll pan out. What I think as the season goes on, and what you're always looking for is who's going to come off the bench who can be a game changer. And if there is anything within our squad that probably smacks of, I'm not too sure, then that's probably where the weakness is, because most of those players are players that you would like to see or would have expected to see starting, but not necessarily the sort of players that can come off the bench if things are going wrong. But with that lineup of Isak and Gordon up front, and Bruno and Joe Linton in the team, we shouldn't be really worried, should I, about who's on the bench and who's coming on to change things, because we're expecting a good season, we're expecting a good start, and I think we're all gonna not surprise anyone when it comes to our predictions in a moment.
No, definitely not. I just want to, before we get to the predictions, read this out. This is a letter from an Everton fan to his missus. Dear Hannah, I hope you're well and enjoying the sunshine. Please take this message as my official 1 week notice. The new Premier League starts next week and my availability will be very limited for the next 8 months. I will be available around the odd international break to attend the odd Saturday day out, but this will depend on my financial situation. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for the effort made by yourself, keeping me company during the off-season. But it's now time for me to return to my Everton family, home and away. I wish you all the best in your future endeavours. Please stay in touch. Kind regards, Rob, your boyfriend. Excellent, lad. You can delete Everton and put any football club in there, I guess, from a lad or a lass who goes home and away. Okay, predictions, George.
4-0 to Newcastle.
4-0 to Newcastle. I've gone 5-1. Joe?
2-0.
2-0 for Joe. Steve?
3-0, flying start. Thinking of what happened last season, flying start, and I think we'll have a flying start again, but I don't think we'll manage the 5, but 3-0 to keep it tight.
And do I have the dice, Mitch, for the first game?
No, we don't have the dice because I lost it in me move.
Oh, for God's sake. You'll have to go buy a new one.
Well, it might
All
turn
right.
up because I'm on the move again soon. So
That's right, guys. So we just need a prediction of you then.
I was going to go 4-0 as well, same as my dad.
All right, 4-0 as well. Don't forget, tomorrow, 38 minutes. Please try and applaud for Laura Coates. She was a Newcastle fan, a big fan. A truly great girl, says Diamond Tints. We did give her a mention at the start of the show, so please make sure you do that. And make sure you visit the food bank and to play out tonight, rather than playing out with our usual Long Sands track. We are going to play out with this. It is a little video, which I'm sure you've seen, but I make no apologies for playing it again. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, get to NUFC Matters on YouTube and hit the subscribe button. It is free. We do 7 shows a week. Back at 10 o'clock in the morning with those with the days. Back 5 o'clock Sunday evening with the professionals. Take care, lads.
Just
See you soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
And we thought, right, how do we start up a food bank at our own football club? What we did know was that we had 52,000 turning up every week. And you know, Newcastle as a city, as a club, we're here to support each other, we're here to help our local communities. And sure enough, from the moment we set up, that's always been the case.
Newcastle's always been a city that takes care of its own. It's been a city that reacts to adversity with unity. When Colin Whittle came to me and Steve and said we should set up a fans food bank, like the Scousers have done, and when we looked at him and nodded, and when we thought, yeah, that's exactly us. That's what Newcastle United fans can do for this city. That's what the people, the fans of this club can bring. They can bring a tin of beans, they can bring a £5 note, they can put that in the buckets and they can feed their fellow citizens.
the Fan Supporting Food Banks Network, I suppose, is what we call it now. And you've got, this is the way that the whole idea spread. And it came from Liverpool. It came from the Spirit of Shankly in the Blue Union, where the Liverpool and Everton fans came together. But it's since spread out into the wider football community. The idea that children are going hungry, the idea that families are going to bed hungry, is something that's reverberating around the country even more now. And it just shows you that
Football fans sometimes get a bad press, but when it comes to looking after the community, football fans are at the heart of their community, the heart of their city, the heart of their town, the heart of their club.
As a food bank, we operate 7 distribution sites across the city, ranging from Heaton and Byker through to Scotswood, Benwell, Leamington, West Denton, Newbig and Hall. The food goes straight into food parcels and gets distributed that week. The money that's donated amazingly gets doubled by Jamie Rubin and is used to purchase food. We're so grateful of the support that the fans give us. They're absolutely amazing, and the support off the pitch as well as on the pitch, we can't fault it.
We've got the most famous young men in the city playing football. We've got 50,000 people going to the match. We've got hundreds of thousands outside. All of those people are taking care of those few unfortunate ones who go to work but still can't feed their families. That's what it's about. It's about sticking together, looking after each other. And I wish we didn't have to do it, but it's been a privilege of my life to be involved with it.
It's the fans in Newcastle United that keep me doing this. I look back and I think, did I want to do this? Probably not. But you know what? I'm proud to be doing it. I'm proud of our city, and I'm proud of the fans that inspire me every single day, every single match day, to do what we do. We do it for the community, and we do it together as a collective.
It's sad that we've got to continue doing it, but whilst there's a demand and a need, we'll continue to do that. The supporters have been absolutely magnificent. Donations have been coming in, week out. We're there every home game. We're there for concerts. We're there whenever we can do. And what we'll do is continue where there is that need.